Happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of Brown Girl Sound Off BGSO, where we center and amplify the voices of women of color. Hey, ladies, how are you?
Hey, sis,
Look
hey.
at Miss Nunu over there, Miss Nafisa with the new do. Ow!
Hey,
Look at you,
sis. I see
girl. Look
you
at
rocking that
you.
pony, boo. I
Look, my
see.
little pony. Ew, ew, ew.
Hey.
Hey, Edwina, all festive over there.
Hello, I'm trying.
Girl, listen, first of all, we were talking about this a little bit ago, but this year has flown by. Cannot believe, like, literally, we're at the end of November. It sounds weird to even say that we are about to usher in a brand new year. I mean, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
um, but anyway, welcome. We're just excited to see each other, as if you can't tell, because we missed you all. We missed each other, but we also missed you all last week. As you know, BGSO, especially if you are a part of our BGSO Facebook group, you know that we are huge on, like, heavy on the self care and the self love. And we will take a break, honey, when we need it, with no apologies, right? I know I used to make lots of apologies and feel bad about it, but listen, y'all, we decided like we were not going to have an episode last week. When I say I was not mad, I knew we would miss all of you and you all would miss us, but I was not mad at it at all. We needed a much needed break to just kind of wind down. Just continue to spend time with loved ones and love on ourselves. So, but if you followed us last month, particularly, you know that we were talking about social media in different aspects in terms of parenting and the impact that it has on our children and the ways in which we raise our children and the things that our children are exposed to. But we also talked about the ways in which social media impacts the way that we see ourselves, right? So, the way that we view ourselves, and we hold ourselves to certain standards according to what it is that we see. So this month I'm so excited that, I mean, I know today is the last day of I'm sorry that we're ushering in December now, but for the month of December we're going to also be thinking about the rest of this year, but the year coming up. So our theme for this month is going to be rise and lead. So we're talking about all the ways that we as black and brown women can rise to the occasion, and lead right from where we are in our homes, our communities, and beyond. And so I'm excited to spark off this month by talking about sister to sister. And look, Nafisa just smiled. I mean, this is such a beautiful topic. We always talk about, especially the three of us, and we want to give a shout out to our other sister, Chantel, who cannot join us for this episode, but she will be back next week. Hey, Shan. But we talk a lot about friendships, especially even amongst ourselves. We talk a lot about our friendships amongst ourselves, right? And how much joy and value they add to our lives. And so for many of us, especially for women, our friendships are like treasures that we hold near and dear. I know that I don't know what I would do without you two. I mean, like, literally do not know, like, cannot figure it out what in the world I would do without you two ladies right here. I mean, just from a just a logical or like hands-on standpoint, when I've gotten help doing things around my house, to from being able to even call either one of you up on the phone, like, hey sis, I need to talk, I need to cry, I need to laugh, I need you to come over, whatever it is that may be. But what I want to know is, like, we can talk about the beautiful relationships that we have amongst each other, but I want us to talk more about how is it that we actually maintain these healthy relationships, especially with other women. How do we maintain healthy, happy, whole, fulfilling, reciprocal relationships with other women? And I want to go to Nafisa first. How do you do that, sis?
I think for me, just being authentic, just being my authentic self, always showing up as I am, being imperfect and allowing people. my friends also the space to be that way, where they feel, I think people feed off the energy you give. So I think that I'm showing up as myself. This is who I am. Sometimes I'm a mess, sometimes I have it all together. And I think just being real and keeping it real, not to be trite, I think that that helps really to build that trust, which I think is so important, really, as the foundation of like any type of relationship, especially a friendship.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, Nafisa cut out. There you go.
I apologize.
No worries.
So, yeah. So for me, I think that that authenticity is really, really important. I think being just like consistent, being loyal, um, and giving that positive energy, and pouring into my friends just as much as they pour into me. Like, I think relationship, it needs to be like reciprocated, and giving the room for your friend, if however they need me to show up. Like, we laughing today, we going off,
What we
you know
doing,
what I mean?
sis?
What we doing? Like, however you need me to show up, like, I'm ready. So just being like that ride or die for my friends, and just giving what I give, and just being there in whatever capacity kind of they need me to be, and making sure that it's reciprocated on both ends.
Sis, I love, first of all, I can attest to everything that you just said. Like, literally, I can't count how many times, like, I will literally be facilitating a whole workshop in front of people that don't know me and definitely don't know you. And I'd be like, yeah, because my sister, Nafisa, always tells me, sis, you don't have to have it all figured out. I mean, I don't know how many times, girl, that saying has like made its way through Maryland and
Oh,
beyond, honey. Like the virtual space, it's over on the West Coast. That I know for sure. I mean, but
I
seriously,
love it.
listen, you love it. Shoo, I love it. Okay. And it's like the other thing that you just said, I think is just so paramount. And it's something I learned in a co-parenting class. Long story, don't ask. But a couple years ago, and it was about, you know, when you share something about like showing up the way that your friend needs you to, right? So like, I think sometimes it's as simple as, hey, do you want me to just listen? And you'll often say that, hey, do you want me to listen? Do you want advice? Whatever it is, like let me know, because that way you're being of service to your friend in that moment, right? You're giving them what they need. And I think a lot of times, and I'm just going to use a really short example of like, sometimes we can call our friends and we can be upset, and what we need, we might not have vocalized it, and that's a whole different thing. But what we might need in that moment is someone to calm us down. But what we get is, girl, da 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 da, and it actually, brings the tension level up, right? And but I think it's important for us to yes, obviously communicate what it is that we need, and on the other end, for us as friends to also ask that, you know what I mean, or step back in that moment and think about, well, if my friend is here, then something tells me I need to bring her down a bit, you know what I mean. And so just bringing that balance. But yeah, girl, guys, I love you.
I love you too.
And Wena, how do you listen? It's my other sis, y'all already know, okay? It's a whole three-legged stool right here. How do you maintain healthy relationships with other women?
That is a very good question. I know for me, like my circle is very small. And so when I open my circle to let women in, or people in general, women in this circumstance, and the reason why it's small is because kind of like what Nafisa said, like I give of myself. It is a selfless thing. It is where I'm opening myself, and I am making myself available to other women, as well as it being reciprocated to me as well. I think keeping the communication clear of what um, like what's going on, just like we talk, is just being able to talk. If something's wrong, like come and tell me, don't go talk about me, or kind of brush it under the rug or whatsoever. Having like that grown relationship where we can actually come and we can hash out whatever is happening, when things are, we're not on the same page, but we can, work through that. And so I would just say, just showing up, just showing up, not just as myself, but showing up for those who I allow within that personal space as women. Um,
And listen, if y'all don't know, I'm gonna tell a quick story about my girl Edwina right here. Let me tell you when I knew she was bae. She already know what story I'm about to tell. This is when I knew, right, that this was my girl for life, and this is like the silliest thing. So one day, because we used to work together, that's how we met, y'all. One day, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go get another tattoo before work, right? That's a long story. I got up extra. I was not late for work. I just went before work, right? So crack of dawn, I decided to, do that. And I got there and I remember it had been years. And I remember the guy, the tattoo artist saying, yeah, you need to put on this cream, da da da. And it had been some time I needed to put the cream on. And Weena went in the bathroom with me and was like, come on, pull your shirt down. You know what I mean? And so I pulled it down and she just was rubbing my back. I said, you know what? I look back. That's babe right there. That right there, that's my rider right there. But in all seriousness, ever since, honestly, we've been rocking and rolling. And, it's a true testament when I think about both of these women on this podcast in particular and how we met. You know what I mean? Like, met like, not random, but like situations where we were kind of put together. Like, Nafisa and I, both of our daughters danced together and they was babies. Edwina and I, we worked together, right? But it's something to be said about energy. So when Edwina, when you were sharing about, your circle is small because of all that you give, I know that to be true because all of that you give to me, right? And I sensed that of you. I was like, oh, this girl gives her all. Like, she got to come into the fold. And both of these women can tell you, once you come into my fold, you're family. Forget all that. You're not friends. This is Aunt Tina. That's Aunt Zena. That's Gigi. Bring your kids on. That's Uncle Tim. That's cousin Tyler. Like that's how we roll because and I think the same is true for you too as well. Like, it's no middle ground with us. You know what I mean? Who wants a middle ground when you're supposed to be friends? But I mean, I know that there are a lot of people who are experiencing that, who don't know whether they can really call somebody their friend. So that kind of leads me into that next question in terms of, what actually gets in the way from your perspective. And I want to, go to Edwina first. From your perspective, when you think about, because we all know people who got them fake and phony friends, I can't stand it. And it breaks my heart, especially when I look at it coming from other women. And I'm like, what did Lauryn Hill say? It could all be so simple. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be that way. Like, so what gets in the way, sis, of us uplifting and celebrating one another and truly being friends with one another?
I think one thing is just insecurity within. It always starts with like that self. And if you aren't really sure of yourself, if you've been, fed the messages of women can't be friends, like we for some reason it's like this I don't know, space, this beef that we have with each other that I was not aware of. And so, going with that mindset of that this is a space we cannot be in together. I'm going in with the mindset of just, not being secure with who you are and not understanding it. I think it does build a level where you don't trust easily. You don't allow people to get to know who you are because you probably, trying to figure that out for yourself as well. So I would say that. And I know for me, I feel like it took a while growing up to really like get close friends. I think my close friends do come from like college and even in college it was a little iffy for a second. But I feel like part of that had to do with me finding myself, for myself first, like, being secure with who I am, and being in a space with other women and not feeling some type of way. So I think that plays a part. So I would say that.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, if you've been watching our podcast and if you have any ideas, and please let us know, write in the comments. If you're in the BGSO group you're watching, please let us know in the chat from your perspective, what gets in the way. But what I think about what Edwina just shared is that, it's so true. We talked about relationships, which has come around twice, right? Since we've been doing BGSO, right? When we talk about relationships, especially from like the romantic standpoint, we often talk about the identity piece and finding out who you are and what you want out of life and being secure within yourself before you even pursue a romantic relationship. But I love the fact that you just brought up, we're talking about friendships with other women, right? Because I think that that golden rule can be applied in all situations in which you are interacting with other humans and building any type of relationship, whether it's a friendship, a working professional relationship. I think that we have to go into it knowing who we are, because otherwise we project so much of our own stuff onto other women. And honestly, I gotta, yes, it's a lot of, internalized oppression, a lot of internalized stuff. And sis, talking to all of us out here, we gotta do that work, right? We can't just, continue to point out the fact that these things are these messages are spoon fed to us. They absolutely are, from the time we're little, right? About what it means to be a girl and how you should look at other women and girls, and like who's bossy, who's not, who gets to be assertive, who gets to make moves. How many of you get to make moves? Is it enough space? And at the same time, I think then we got to come to the table or come to the mirror and start to say, all right, let me peel away some of the stuff. Let me start to look at some of the relationships around me, right? And take inventory of my relationships and how my friends are perceiving me, how I'm interacting with other women. I think if we did that more often, then we can show up differently, not just for ourselves, but for other women, and definitely rise up and lead and band together. Nafisa, what do you think? What gets in our way of celebrating each other and lifting each other up?
Yeah, you guys touched on a lot of what I would have said as well. I definitely agree with both of you ladies. But I think for sure it absolutely starts with self. And I think of that saying, like, hurt people hurt people. And it's unfortunate, people, we're all products of our environment. And I think that, we're working on changing the narrative, but I don't know where it started, where it began. But just that issue, like you said, that you can't occupy the same space, that we both can't thrive, that if you come in and it's like a beautiful woman in a room that has her stuff together, you know what I mean, that automatically, like, you have to be in competition with this person. Like, why do we have to be in competition? Even in whatever spaces you're showing up, even if it's at work, if it's like, another minority woman of, color, or another minority woman at work, it's like, okay, well, we both can't be thriving. No, why can't we both thrive and pull each other's coat and help each other? We're both growing. Like, it's enough space for everyone. And I think it really starts with, as Edwina said, that self-work and looking at yourself and your insecurities and looking at how you're showing up, and to change kind of like that mindset. Because I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, like, there's times where, like, I see people I don't even know, and I'll be like, sis, your boots are sharp, or I love your hair, or you are beautiful, sis. Yes, I see you, sis, stuff like that. And, sometimes people don't know how to receive it. They're like, because they're so surprised you're actually like giving them a compliment. And even sometimes people at work and different stuff like that, because a lot of time people aren't used to that. They didn't see that maybe growing up in their household. They didn't see that example. They didn't see that in the friendships that they've had thus far in their life. They haven't seen that in their coworkers and their relationships at work. So I think it has a lot to do with people's experiences, and they've built kind of like those walls up, and they don't feel like that both people can occupy that space. But it really starts with just yourself and changing the narrative, and changing your mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you said. I think you're right. I think that for those of us who try to lead by example and create those spaces for us to be great and acknowledge when another woman is great, I think that is a beautiful thing, for us to do, so that we can model for other women, like, hey, me complimenting you has nothing to do with how, you know what I mean, how I don't feel less than because I feel that you did bomb. You know what I mean? I don't feel like you above me because you got it going. No, we both got it going on. And it's crazy. I think back to, I'm not gonna call anybody out, but this actually kind of leads into the like our final question. But a couple of weeks ago, I found myself invited to probably about 3 pissing contests, like within a 3. I know, right? Yeah, I said it. Within a 3 day span. That's what I look. And so it's funny because one of them, they literally hit me like bam, bam, bam. And one of them, I don't know, like I almost went to the contest. Like I did. I found myself like, Ellie don't laugh. I found myself tiptoeing over there. It was like a knee-jerk like response. And then, then I said, well, Tony, why are you doing? Why are you showing up to this pissing contest just because you got an invite? Like, girl, bye, go home. And so I say that to say, so like my last question, I want to know is like, well, how do we move forward, without all the bruises? Because even though we try to, and we're not perfect, very far, very, very far from perfect. But what I find myself doing here lately, because I'm just going to be honest, especially as I make different moves and things like that, mainly I'm celebrated and I'm connected with a lot of great women. And every now and then, people send me pissing contest invites, right? Directly. And so what I do is I politely decline, right? So I'm going to let you go ahead and aim and you hit that target, sis, because what I'm not going to do is go ahead and join you. You know what I mean? So like that's one way that I know that I move forward without the bruises, because otherwise when I've shown up to said contests, right, and engaged in this thing, like, okay, you trying to show me up, let me because you invited me, so let's go. No, I feel like nobody wins in that situation. You know what I mean? Nobody wins. It doesn't make me feel good. As a matter of fact, that one that I'm speaking of, it really bothered me because I tiptoed my behind over there. And I was like, well, why did I do that? I got caught up in a moment, but then after a while I said, well, I don't, why, you don't have to do that. She's not you, you're not her. There's no real contest or competition. Just because she invited you over here doesn't mean you have to come. But yeah, my mother will tell you, because she'll be like, Tony, why are you? And I'll be like, look, I don't respond to every single thing. You know what I mean? And that's one way that I try to walk away without being bruised, is by not responding to every single thing. And hopefully that is modeling by example. That I'm sorry, but I might have to leave you over there looking stupid. Like seriously. And you're going to be competing with yourself. Because after all, that's what I want for you, sis. I want you to compete with yourself. I'm not here to compete with you, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not here to compete with me. But I want to know what y'all think. Because I hate being invited to pissing contests. Like, please, y'all, don't invite me anymore. I'm over it.
For me, it's like, I like to evaluate the situation. Like, what part do I play? And so if it's a matter of some breakup or whatever, like within a friendship, I see like what part did I play, like what went wrong, and if I can confidently say that I did all that I gave all that I could give. Like if I can walk away feeling assured that it's really not me, then I don't take it personal. But I'm the type of person, like, let me know. This is why I say, communication is very important, because if I'm doing something wrong, I want you to tell me, because then I can work on it and we can move forward. But if it's something where it's like, I'm not understanding exactly what I did to you, then, at that point, I will just go ahead and I'm not going to take it personal, and I will then, separate myself so that I am not walking away feeling, like you said, that bruised with the situation or the outcome of how things may have turned out. Mm-hmm. So I think just reevaluating, or reflecting upon what part you play within that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's crucial, because we all do play a role, right? Some type of role. It doesn't mean, it's not even about assigning blame or guilt, but in any situation, you have two people with two different perspectives, with two different ways of looking at things, right? And so maybe there was a misunderstanding, right? You know what I mean? I think about even a situation I spoke of. Maybe I don't know, maybe that sister was having a bad day. And maybe I showed up, you know, in a way that triggered something. And she's like, oh, is she trying to? And I was like, no, you know, I'm not, you know. But we didn't have that conversation. So I love that you also brought up the communication piece, because so much of what I see, you know, in terms of like breaking up, especially like women's friendships, is like all that gossip. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And everybody talks. So I'm not talking about talking. That's not what I'm saying. We all talk, and we all should be talking about our relationships, right? Like, I think that that's a healthy thing to do. What I'm talking about is, like you said, Edwina, like if I've done something to offend you, or you know what I mean, when you've caused harm, and if you value that relationship, then I think, yeah, you communicate that to that person so that
Mm-hmm.
you give them the opportunity to repair that harm, rather than going back, you know, behind someone's back and just talking about them like a dog. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair, and it's not okay. That breaks down communication, and it breaks down relationships, when half the time it's not even that serious. Period.
Yeah.
Nafisa, what about you? What do you think? Like,
I
how do you
mean,
walk away without being bruised?
I agree with everything that you ladies said for sure. I think just communication is really key, and I think, as you said, it depends on how much I value the relationship and the friendship. Because sometimes there's been times where it gets to a point with certain friendships, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't have nothing more to give you, and bye.
Good
You know what I mean?
enough.
Sometimes it gets yeah, nah. Sometimes it gets sometimes it gets to that point in certain friendships where, I mean, it's not something that happens over a night, where it's like certain things have continued occurred, and you just like, I don't know. Then it's like that last final straw. You like, you know what, I'm out. Like, and it's just kind of like done. You don't even want to entertain the friendship or whatever, and no conversation maybe needs to even be had. I am the type of person, like, I am in my relationships, in any way I show up, even at work, like, I'm just not a phony person. So I'm going to say what I have to say, and I'm going to leave you with it, and then we're going to move forward. So depending on like how much I value the relationship, if it's like a really good friend, you know, I will be upfront, like, look, this is how I felt, you know, and we can have a conversation about it, you know, and we move forward. But I think communication is definitely key. And like you said, giving the person the opportunity to repair that relationship or friendship. Because oftentimes when people do things, it really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with whatever the other person is going through at that moment or at that time, and their own internal work they need to do. And you know, everybody, I remember my dad always would say this, like, everybody's fighting some type of battle. Like, you don't know what the hell people are dealing with. Somebody might have just lost their husband, their parent, child, whatever, and you just ran into them at the wrong moment. You never know what people are dealing with. Everybody's dealing with some shit, that's for sure. So it's like, most of the time it's not about you. But you know, that doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, as you said, that you may be bruised and you don't want to be leave a certain relationship or friendship or whatever bruised. So I think just communicating however you were feeling, or and giving that person an opportunity to kind of like repair the relationship if you value it enough. And then sometimes you have to know when you need to just walk away and no longer, you know, put energy into it, and you need to protect your energy.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that, because again, that's something else that has come up when we've talked about, you know, romantic relationships. It's like, hey, sis, walk away. But yeah, the same thing is true for our friendships with other women, right? We can't allow anyone to continuously, you know, be toxic in our lives, and, you know, not add value. Like, the women in my circle are hands down the most valuable assets, right? Besides my kids, obviously, but the most valuable assets on this planet. Period. I mean, I stand behind that 1,000%. Even those of you, and you know who you are, that I might not even talk to on a weekly basis. But what I know is, when I do talk to you, first of all, what we talk about is going to be between us. That's number one. That's number one and two. And number three, you know, when we get together, we're gonna have a good time, right? And that's what I know, and that's all I need to know, right? And so it's just such a blessing and such a joy. I cannot, it's like I can't overstate that enough, how much of a blessing and a joy it is to have women in your circle that are truly like champions for you, who are truly cheering you on, and like, and then it's mutual, and y'all just like this circle of fireflies, emitting this light that just like radiates, like it. Woo! You just can't contain it. It's such a beautiful thing. So yeah, I mean, this was a great conversation. I know that it's brought me a lot of joy to even talk about this, because I know how much my friendships with you ladies and with the couple other ladies, ain't too many of y'all, but with the other ladies. No, but seriously, I know how much my relationships mean to me. And so any final thoughts before we close out for the night?
No, I think I'm good.
What are you gonna say, Eddie? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying no. I'm good. You can go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, let's just continue to change that narrative. Let's continue to change that narrative, and we can occupy the same spaces. We can uplift. We can affirm each other, and
And women can be friends. Yes, we can.
And
Yeah.
listen,
And have a good
and
time
not only
together.
right, and
absolutely,
not only can we do all these things, we should do all
we
these
should.
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
We should, ladies. So it's been a pleasure talking with you too, Chantel. We miss you. Throughout this episode, and let us know what you think. If you're watching us on YouTube, please let us know in the comments. And the same thing is true for our Brown Girls Sound Off group on Facebook. If you're not already a member, then please join our group on Facebook. It is an amazing, empowering, powerful, loving space full of dope women of color. But yeah, let us know what you thought about tonight's episode, and if you have any friends that you like to shout out and let us know what they mean to you, listen, shout those ladies out in the comments. Let's get used to calling each other out in a positive way. Let's get used to lifting each other up and celebrating each other. As always, it has been real. Like, share, subscribe, and please return with us next week. Have a wonderful rest of your night.